Welcome to Caregiver Cast with Elaine Petrucci. Are you overwhelmed raising a family, working full-time, caring for a parent or grandparent? It can be challenging when you're doing it alone. Caregiver Cast helps busy, burned-out professionals reduce their stress and overwhelm to create a better caregiving experience for themselves and their loved one. Caregiver Cast brings caregivers together with experts who provide information in a variety of areas. In each episode, you'll get tips on topics such as finance, legal, medical, self-care, community resources, mindset, and more. We're here to make your caregiving journey a more rewarding one. Acquire the confidence and skills to be a more capable caregiver by implementing the resources and strategies from these expert thought leaders. Get a community of support, resources, and strategies for your caregiving journey inside the Caregiver Lifeline community. Visit caregiverlifelinecommunity.com. And now here's your host, Elaine Petrucci.
Hi, welcome to Caregiver Cast. My name is Elaine Petrucci, your host. My guest speaker today is Dr. Erin Foley, who will be talking about breaking the cycle of stress. And before I formally introduce Dr. Foley, I would like to just give you some background information about her. Dr. Erin Foley is a functional medicine practitioner, certified health and wellness coach, creator of Vibrant Healthy Women programs, and is a speaker and author. She helps women from their 30s to their 70s balance their hormones naturally, helping women with energy, sleep, weight, metabolism, mood and mental clarity, gut and digestion, hormones, hot flashes, PMS, in helping create vibrant health. She works with women with hormone testing programs and online group and private coaching programs, online courses, and natural product solutions for gut health, mental wellness, and hormone balancing. She is an author of the Jumpstart Volume 4 book series, and her chapter is Jumpstart Your Hormones. So Dr. Erin has over 30 years of experience in the natural healthcare field. She has had the privilege of being in private chiropractic practice for 34 years, including 20 years board certified in acupuncture, and now exclusively sees women from everywhere in her functional medicine and coaching practice, in person and virtually. She is passionate about helping women with functional medicine and natural health solutions. Welcome to Caregiver Cast, Dr. Erin. How are you?
Well, I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. I know stress is a big factor in being a caregiver, so this is a very timely discussion that we're going to have today. So can you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you became interested in functional medicine?
Well, as you said in my bio or intro, that I've been my licensing. I've been a licensed chiropractor for 34 years. So that was been at my natural healthcare my whole life. And as I moved through my practice, there was always just more that I wanted to know, more that I wanted to help patients with. And so I started as a chiropractor, then I became nationally certified in acupuncture, and I love acupuncture, so much to offer. And then the next step was functional medicine. Functional medicine really helps get to the root cause of health issues by looking at what we use testing. And so many women I see are falling through the cracks of their doctor's office because you may go in and you may have some issues that may be vague, such as maybe I'm tired, or I gained some weight, or I'm not sleeping, or I have a lot of stress. And the doctor may say, well, you look fine. And here, they might do a couple tests, but they're not really diving deep. So functional medicine, we dive deep. We look at what do we need to look at, and we are like detectives. So then and then we can go into nutrition, supplements, and lifestyle. So that's why I went into functional medicine, to really just have that one more big huge tool to use to help women improve their health.
That sounds fabulous that you went on your own learning journey. So what is your approach to helping women with stress and hormone issues?
So, okay, so you're talking about this, about, caregivers, and I had my own experience. So about 10 years ago, I had both of my parents. I'm an only child, and end of life for both parents, and I cared for them. My father had cancer, terminal cancer. My mom had Alzheimer's. So I went through my own journey of caregiving, and really, I knew a lot. Now I think, let's see, I became certified in functional medicine in 2014. So this was pre that. And so this was about 2011, 2012, 2013. And I really actually fell apart myself due to stress, due to the stress of the caregiving. So I knew a lot back then. And I was actually in the process of getting my certification, but I tell you, I fell apart myself. So it's like, wow, if that happens to me. So it became really about, I see this in women, whether they're caregivers or not, but especially in the last 2 years with the pandemic, is how stress affects our hormones, our bodies, and the big things that it does affect are going to be your sleep, your energy, your mood, your weight, and if you don't have those things working in your favor, you can't feel good. So what I look at is working on breaking the cycle of stress with different techniques, so that you can actually not go into that downward spiral of stress.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. I know it must have been very difficult, especially helping one parent after the other. So give us an idea of how caregivers can break that cycle of stress before they really hit the wall, so to speak.
Yeah, well, okay. So if you're a woman, we are natural caregivers. That's just our nature. We are happy to do it. We do it. You may be caregiving in many different situations, or for more than one, or for more than one, like either maybe parents and a child. So there could be many situations, but we need as women to also make ourselves a priority, that we can't just sacrifice ourselves to this, like the matter at hand. You can't just sacrifice yourself. I had a business at the time, so yeah, my business suffered, and we need to have some boundaries. So there's some boundaries we need to learn: self-care, making ourselves a priority, so that you don't suffer. Because once you start going into that cycle of stress, one of the things, so if you're stressed, a lot of times it'll happen is that maybe you're not sleeping well, then you're waking up the next day and you're really tired. And then what do you do to get through the day? You stress eat. You may do caffeine, sugar, junk food, and then you may have trouble sleeping, and then you're going around and around. That can affect your mood. It can affect your weight. And then you're in that downward spiral. So you do have to look at, I work a lot with, finding out what's going on with the hormones, looking at your nutrition, and stress handling techniques and self-care. So all of this has to come into it. So to answer your question, one of the first things,
no, it just start at the beginning, because you listed about 4 things and we're all very interested in all 4.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Please start.
So what I would say, the first thing to do is to take inventory. So I guess I was giving the big picture, but you take inventory of what's really going on. How is your sleep? You really want to take your physical inventory. Are you sleeping, or are you really having trouble? How's your energy? Are you having good nutrition throughout the day, or are you just kind of grabbing or ordering out all the time and not paying attention? Are you depressed? Are you struggling? And so you really have to sit down and be honest with yourself that if you are caring for somebody, you need to take inventory, and that's the first step.
Okay. And after do we put this down in a journal so that we can see when we slept and how well we slept, and then have you pinpoint more specifically what else we could do at that point?
Well, yes, actually journaling and tracking is a great thing, because we tend to kind of forget that, oh, maybe you've had 6 hours of sleep every night, instead of 7, 8, or 9. And you're waking up every morning at 2 in the morning and not going back to sleep. So yeah, journaling and tracking is great. So that's where you get your first awareness. Now, if you're a caregiver and you're in this situation, you might need to get some help, whatever that means. It could mean having help with your loved one, having help for yourself. I actually just did a masterclass on my, I do like a podcast like this, and I had a caregiving coach on there. So it could be, you can hire somebody to help you with your health, your nutrition, a coach to help you support you.
That all sounds fantastic. So first we take an inventory. What comes next?
Well, the next thing that comes next is what can you do? What are you recognizing there that you can take care of? Asking for help is a big one, because as a chiropractor for many years, I was really used to having my women patients come in, and all of a sudden now they're elderly parents who are in a different state. I'm in Colorado, and maybe they had several siblings, and they're the one who's doing the caregiving from another state because nobody else is willing to step up. So I think that there needs to be that family discussion. I'm an only child. I didn't have to have that, but the family discussion of if it's falling all to you, you know, having some boundaries. So what are the things you can control? How can you ask for help? And, you know, where can you start? Where can you say, if you're drinking a pot of coffee every day, obviously that's going to affect your sleep. If you're drinking 5 sodas a day to get through the day, you know, that's going to affect your sleep. So you want to look at where can you just start with one thing.
Okay. So let's say we want to decrease the caffeine and all the coffee that we're drinking. So how would somebody take like the next step?
Well, you would recognize, it would be like that whole tracking and taking inventory, would be recognizing what is it that you're doing as a coping mechanism. You know,
Right.
is that, you know, is trying to get through the day. Well, obviously, if you're looking at, okay, I have to have this much caffeine to get through the day, then I'm not sleeping and I'm exhausted. There's a way that you need to start looking at what needs to change here and what can you change. So I work a lot with self-care, and self-care is something that most caregivers aren't even going to be having in their life. I know I didn't.
Well, that's true. I mean, you're so focused on the person you're caring for that you don't step back and look at what you really need.
So one of the biggest things is, so when I talk about hormones, it's not just hot flashes and PMS. I really look at all the metabolic hormones, such as your adrenal hormones. So those are really important when you're having stress, because your adrenal cortisol hormones are your fight or flight hormones. So when you're activating your hormones from your daily life, from, you know, what you're doing, a lot of women are very busy, have a lot of stress, and they're activating their stress hormones. It will deplete your adrenal hormones and your cortisol. And when your cortisol is low, it's like running on a low battery all the time. So it's like every night you plug in your cell phone, and if it's maybe an old phone, and maybe you get 50% battery by the next morning. Okay, this is what you are like with low adrenals, and this is what happens when you have chronic stress. So that's one of the things that I look at. And for some women, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's we have to look at your hormones and give you the things that are going to nourish your hormones, nourish your adrenals, and get you on the right path of nutrition.
So we look at the adrenals, and we look at balancing all that out. Then what comes next? Is it nutrition, or is there a step in between?
You know, I would say really, well, it could be there. You can come at it from different angles. Okay, so nutrition is a key thing. because what you put in your body, if you're eating foods that are unbalancing your hormones, it's only going to make stress worse. And you want to eat foods that are nourishing and healthy. Sometimes that's not always an option for women who are stressed or too busy. So sometimes it could be that you may need to add in the self-care first. Maybe you need to add in some supplements. So now this is getting really targeted because I work with women on figuring out what's going on and directing them in that area. But if you're doing it yourself, taking inventory and then choosing an area to work on is really what to do.
Okay. So for me, a few years ago, after I had taken care of my parents, I was really fatigued. So I was able to join like a health and wellness program at work. So starting with, your health, what can you change in small steps initially? I mean, I know it really depends on the person's whole metabolic state, but if you can give us just some idea of what things would be healthier for people.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. What you just brought up is getting support. It could be anything from joining a health and wellness program. It could be getting some health and wellness coaching, getting some support for you so you don't feel like you're doing it all alone. And as far as so is your question kind of more in like what nutrition ideas to do, or?
Yes, if you can give us some idea of nutrition and what things that we can look for in terms of when we might need supplements.
Okay. So nutrition for women, one of the biggest things I see is most women aren't eating enough protein. So you want to look at protein, healthy fats, and watching the carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates and sugars are one of the biggest offenders in our hormones. Okay, so if you are eating a lot of like refined carbs would be like white breads and white rices and really refined things, cereals, pastries, that type of thing, and pasta, it can actually spike your blood sugar. And so your blood sugar can start going up and then it'll come down and go up. This can make you feel really tired. It can make you crave more sugar. And this is a kind of a big thing with stress. When you are stressed, you might want sugar, and that puts you on the blood sugar roller coaster, and then you want more sugar. So really for women, like the easiest way to look at it is keep it simple, eat whole foods, make sure you get protein in each meal, which would be like animal protein, because that is the best actual protein for our bodies. And it's the only complete protein. And get healthy fats. And healthy fats are going to be things like coconut oil, avocados, real butter, nuts and nut butters. Stay away from chemicals and packaged and processed foods. And keep your carbs to like veggies, fruits, and maybe in your journal taking, you notice that maybe you're eating a lot of sugar, and then you might want to replace the sugar with fruit and start eating more whole foods and proteins, fats, fruits, and vegetables.
Fantastic advice. So now that we have looked at like our nutrition, I seem to be getting lots of like emails about deficiencies in magnesium or zinc or some other mineral. How, if we've improved our nutrition and we're still feeling not so great, what else should we look for?
Well, with supplements, there are definitely some supplements I think are really helpful for women. And magnesium is actually it's kind of a common deficiency. And magnesium actually does help with relaxing your muscles. It helps you sleep. Vitamin D is another one I see when I do my testing. Most women, I would say 99% of the women I work with are deficient, like severely deficient in vitamin D.
Mm.
Vitamin D has a lot to do with your mood. It's protective against breast cancer and heart disease. So it's a really important one to make sure you have enough of. That's one you really don't know unless you get it tested. But magnesium and vitamin D, and those are some really important ones. As far as like what you were saying, that you're eating better and you're still feeling really exhausted or tired, not feeling where you want to be, maybe you do have some low cortisol and low adrenal hormones. And that would be where you want to get them tested, because there are some supplements you would take for that, but it depends. Do you have low cortisol or do you have high cortisol? They both, that comes out of the testing. So that's why it can be really helpful to get that information, because when you have low cortisol, it's like running around on a low battery all day. And then you think there's something wrong with you, but there's not. It's actually within your hormones and your cells. Now, on the other hand, if you have high cortisol, it's like you're being tired or wired. And so there's different supplements to bring it down or bring it up, depending on what you need to do.
So obviously, seeing a functional medicine physician such as yourself makes much more sense, so that you can delve into what is really causing that cycle of stress or fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, that can be, it's like, as women, we're so used to, there's so much information out there on the internet, right? So much. You could Google it and you could end up with 20 different solutions, and you could spend a whole bunch of money buying all this different stuff, and it may not work for you. So that's what we do, is getting to the root cause. And as I said before, you can certainly do some things yourself. I have a lot of free resources on my website. So I teach this all the time. So it's something that you can explore there. On some of my ideas would be taking inventory and being aware, and starting to improve your nutrition. That would be the first 2 steps.
Okay, fantastic. You had mentioned doing self-care and taking time for yourself. And I know that a lot of caregivers feel like they can't do that because they feel they have to be caring for that person 24/7.
Yeah.
And I realize that how can you help women to break that thought of being a caregiver 24/7 and not functioning well, and stopping to take some time and ask for help, which is another thing that is really a challenge for caregivers. So what are your recommendations in those cases?
Well, since, yes, I was there and in that place, and so it depends, it all depends on your situation, but it could just be one thing. Maybe you're able to take a hot Epsom salt bath at night 3 times a week. Put it in your schedule and you say, I'm doing this for myself. It could help you sleep better. One of the things I use essential oils. That's a really easy one where you can use certain blends. You can create your own blends that can be for stress, and it doesn't take a lot of time to do that. And let's see what else. Now I remember when we had my mom at home, it was my husband and I, and we actually even did have some in-home help too. It was like 3 of us to take care of this little woman who had Alzheimer's, and bless her heart, I mean, I'm glad we got to do that. But, I mean, it was like, I never could ever take a nap if I was on duty. I mean, you just don't get to do that. So it's really about what kind of routines could you do for yourself before bed or in the morning? Can you even journal for 5 minutes, or meditate for 5 minutes, or take a hot bath? Just do something. What can you do? I think in this context, what can you do for 5 minutes? Make a list of self-care activities you could do that would take 5 minutes, that would take 10 minutes. Because sometimes we think, oh, well, I don't have the time. But if you have 5 minutes, maybe your loved one is taking a nap and you have 5 minutes, and you could actually say, well, instead of doing an activity to take care of that, my loved one, or clean the house, I will do something for me. The other thing is, maybe you need to hire some help, hire that house cleaner, hire the in-home care. I know that's very expensive, but it is certainly, something that can really help give you a break so that you can breathe.
Okay, fantastic. So, are there anything else that breaks this cycle of stress besides nutrition and self-care?
Well, I work with women. When I work with women, and I have women who are very severely stressed, sometimes we do break the cycle of supplements, but that needs to be like under like specific targeted supplements for you. But for some women, I do have some that they can't quite get the food going yet, but we're breaking the cycle with the supplements. So it's another way of coming at it, because sometimes women are too busy, too stressed to cook, to shop, to plan, and that can be stressful. One thing that I do as a tip for that is there are these in-home, I guess those delivery meal services like HelloFresh and Blue Apron and all of those. I recommend those a lot to women, because if they're really struggling to just get some healthy nutrition, it's like, it's better than takeout, and they can start getting into the habit of cooking healthy meals for them, or their loved ones and family, and they don't have to do it all from scratch.
Great advice. So what three major takeaways can you provide caregivers in terms of breaking this cycle of stress that keeps them in that circle and not getting out?
Yeah. Well, first of all, your hormones are your key to feeling good. So we're talking really about the stress hormones, your blood sugar hormones. Those are the hormones, your metabolic hormones, that what you eat every day creates how you feel. Your level of stress is going to create how you feel. So those hormones need to be in pretty good shape for you to sleep well, have good energy, not gain a lot of weight during your caregiving experience, and also have good mood and not have brain fog or, depression or anxiety. So the hormones are the key right there, is keeping your hormones in balance.
And the only way to do that is to really see someone such as yourself in functional medicine. So can you tell the listeners how they can contact you if they feel like they need to reach out and find someone to help them break the cycle of stress, and the only way is to come see you and do some testing? So is there a way that our listeners can contact you?
Yes, my website is vibranthealthywoman.com, and I do have a lot of free resources. So I do have a free guide on how to have more energy for women, and that is, you can sign up for that on my website. And I have a free call if you want to chat about your hormones and health. It's a free, no obligation call. What we do in the call is find out what's going on with you, give you some ideas, and then let you know what I have to offer with one-on-one services. And I also have free masterclasses. I just did one on caregiving, I think last month, and it's called Caring for You While Caring for Others. So I have a special guest on there giving some more tips. So I do a lot of low cost and free things, and then I do my comprehensive one-on-one work. So I hope that there is something in there for everybody. And I also have an 8-week course. So I have a lot of different things, but you can go to vibranthealthywoman.com, and that is my website.
Fantastic. I know that I need to probably see you, even though I'm not really caregiving at this point. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you taking time and letting, caregivers, women in particular, break that cycle of stress. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Caregiver Cast today. Get a community of support, resources, and strategies for your caregiving journey inside the Caregiver Lifeline community. Visit caregiverlifelinecommunity.com. Get involved with the show. Send your email to mpetrucci2002@gmail.com. And we'll see you again next week for another episode of Caregiver Cast.